Perhaps you've heard. The sky is falling, the mighty Casey has struck out, and the Michigan Wolverines lost to some team from Appalachia State, which for the record isn't really a state. Good people of Michigan, I beseech thee, let's all keep a little perspective. Breathe deeply, visualize a sunset, and come in from the ledge. It's going to be all right. The late Red Barber once recounted for NPR listeners the day the New York Giants' Bobby Thompson hit the famed shot heard round the world. It ripped the hearts out of the hard-luck Brooklyn Dodgers fans. And you know what happened the next day, Red Barber asked? The sun came up right on schedule. They say that on any given Saturday, anyone can beat anyone. And last Saturday, anyone did. Not since 1891, when the Wolverines opened their season against Ann Arbor High School with a 61-0 victory, did the opener seem like such a mismatch. I asked Michigan fans after the game where Appalachia State Mountaineers come from, and I heard Virginia, Tennessee, and even, yes, New York, I assume the Upper West Side, but not the correct answer, Boone, North Carolina. Who knew? Who cared? Certainly no one in Ann Arbor did before the game, which was added to the schedule only after the NC2A allowed teams to play an extra game in a shameless money grab on the backs of unpaid labor. Well, the folks in Boone had been watching the Wolverines since February, and it showed. Give the Mountaineers their due. They led Michigan in almost every offensive category the entire game. Nonetheless, it was still simply impossible to believe that Michigan would not take the game over. But a funny thing happened. When Michigan set up for what would be its game-winning field goal in the final seconds, a Mountaineer ran straight past Michigan's defenders and smothered the ball in his stomach. The Giants win the pennant. Down goes Frazier. Do you believe in miracles? The announcer from Appalachian State made all those famous calls sound like a bored Burger King teller repeating your order on the drive-thru speaker. There was no joy in Arborville. The Michigan faithful, of course, responded with their characteristic cool maturity, similar, as Dave Barry would say, to the way Curly reacts after Larry and Moe poke him in the eyes. I saw a few male students leave the stadium in tears. Now, when I went to Michigan, there are a few things we men did not do, and crying after watching a football game was about 5 of them. You could not escape it. ABC and ESPN quickly called it the greatest upset in the history of college football. The Detroit Tigers broadcasters discussed it in the middle of their game, and MSNBC ran the story too. I can only presume the Food Channel interrupted its souffle to bring its viewers the breaking news. It was that big. That night, the email boxes of Coach Lloyd Carr, Athletic Director Bill Martin, and President Mary Sue Coleman filled with hundreds of vitriolic missives, often profane and occasionally so disturbing they had to be forwarded to U of M security. Apparently, such writers believe President Coleman will take a break from running the university to draw up defensive schemes on the sidelines and send in the plays with a pat on their butts. U of M fans have a sense of entitlement the way some folks have got halitosis. Too often they are less football fans than opera critics, sitting quietly in their seats waiting for someone to screw up so they can show their friends how much smarter they are than the coaching staff. And now what the critics want more than anything is to see Lloyd Carr go. The game was a stinker of historic proportions, there's no spinning that. Carr rightly took full responsibility afterwards. But it was only a game, one game, hardly dwarfing Lloyd Carr's incredible accomplishments on the field and off. This is a man who has won more national titles than Bo Schembechler and more Big Ten titles than Fritz Chrysler, and yet he remains the Harry Truman of college coaches. You want him replaced? Be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. So, what happens next? Well, as my father often said to me after I suffered a setback, John, when you're on the floor, you can't fall out of bed. The Wolverines will bounce back, they always do. And I could not help but notice, between the crying co-eds on Saturday night and the cranky callers on Sunday morning, that once again, the sun came up right on schedule.